Hello, everyone, and welcome to Living Well with Dr. Sheila. I am your host, Dr. Sheila Craig Whiteman, and I would like to welcome you to the show and thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today, my guests, I just think all of my guests are wonderful. I know I say that all the time, but I have a wonderful guest on today. And just to go back, I'm just so excited about my guests. Okay. So my show is about anything that has to do with your health. So that's physical, mental, right? Physical, mental, emotional well-being. So anything that has to do with that, I like to bring these experts onto my show. So today we have Marci Melzer, and she is an intuitive speech language pathologist, a language facilitation coach, and consultant. For 3 decades, Marci has provided speech and language therapy, as well as national professional education talks in the U.S. health education systems. Her specialty is training and coaching parents and caregivers to connect with those who are not talking well yet and use natural language facilitation strategies. Marci's strategies are specifically designed to equip, motivate, and empower those who struggle with speech to work hard and develop the language they need to share their wisdom with the world. Beautiful. Marci's online Waves of Communication platform provides resources so parents and caregivers can try language facilitation and prove to themselves how powerful they are. So we're going to go ahead and bring Marci in. And I do want to remember. And so, audience, what you're going to do is you're going to send the vibes for me to remember because, I just won't. So you're going to let me remember, help me to remember that there's offerings and resources that she offers at the end. So we're going to talk about those too because they look like there's some good ones. So we don't want to miss that. But let me just go ahead and bring Marci in. There she is. Hi, Marci. How are you?
Hi, I am great. I am very happy to be here talking to your audience today.
Very good, very good. We're excited that you're here too, and clearly I'm excited because I couldn't even get half the words out correctly. So, with the speech pathologist, mind you. But yes, I am really, really excited that you're here today too. So let's start out as I start out with everybody because I like to always know about the journey and how you came to do what you do. Because you've actually done not just speech pathology, but you've also done extra things and things that are really beneficial to the public to really help them to, express themselves fully.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about that journey.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'm really happy to talk to your audience because I know a lot of you are women. And I also talk to women and caregivers because women are the primary caregivers for their babies, both the ones that they have themselves, and a lot of women work as caregivers in environments. And so I was a speech pathologist for 27 years, and I was finding that it was becoming harder and harder for me to work in the field, in the healthcare system or in the education system, because I was finding that I wasn't getting the results that I was hoping for, mostly because of the system. So it was set up so that I didn't have any choice of who worked with me or who I worked with. So I was just getting random people who were just assigned to me, and they were all desperate for their kids to start talking. But only a certain select percentage, about a third of them, were even willing to work with me to take the responsibility themselves to get the progress. And those that did, they saw progress. But the other ones, the ones that just wanted to rely on me to show up and fix their kids or get them talking or make their behavior stop, or things like that. And they would go cook or take a shower or use me like a babysitter. Those families saw less progress. So as I started working and getting older in the system, I started to realize how when parents decided to take that responsibility themselves, that I would work, it would work a lot better. It was win, win, win. The child was happy, the parent was happy, and I was happy because I was actually not spinning my wheels working just with a child who I didn't know very well. Because the key is that parent has a real connection with the child, and we're talking about communication. So it just made a lot of sense for me to think about doing something on my own because the systems around me were breaking down. I was getting fewer of these families that wanted to take responsibility. And it was also taking me because I was having to jump through all the insurance hoops and all of that stuff to try to get paid. It was taking me up to a year to get paid in the system. So I decided to bypass everything and create waves of communication as a resource for parents who want to take that initiative and learn how to get their kids talking. And that's where waves of communication came from.
Hmm. Really? That's the story of a lot of us who leave the healthcare profession.
Yeah, I think so. We as providers become disempowered because somebody above us is making the decisions about who we work with, how we work, what we
Mhm.
got to say when we work, because it's all about if you do it this way, you get paid. If you do it
Yep.
that way, you don't get paid. And I kind of didn't like that anymore. I was getting, after 27 years of doing this, I knew what worked. And when I was again able to create a team with the child, and because it wasn't just about connecting with the child, I only got to see them a very limited amount of time. Sometimes I only had consults where I saw them one time, and that's why I thought, well, if they're only going to see me one time, why
Mhm.
doesn't it be a YouTube video that has something really valuable in them? And then I can make lots of those, and the parents can return over and over and over again. And that's what's happening.
Mhm. So you worked in the school system?
I worked just about everywhere, Sheila. Over 27 years as a contractor, I moved around as a contractor. So I worked for an agency because it was really easy. I didn't have to wait to get paid. They had the big volume to pay me to go, and I would go wherever they wanted. If they wanted me to go to this orphanage, and the contractor always gets the least attractive assignments, right?
I was a
So I would
contractor,
go
yes.
as the contractor, I would go to nursing homes where they were not very clean. I would go to behavior schools with the most severely affected kids with cognitive disorders or multiple physical issues or vision or hearing. Because I know sign language, I would work with the hearing impaired. Because I know
Mm.
Spanish, I'd work with the bilingual. The people who didn't, I would fill those holes, right, where they couldn't
Mhm.
hire a therapist. And literally every single year, Sheila, my work environment changed for 27 years. Every year, I was in a different school or hospital or nursing home or place like that, because with a degree in speech therapy, the higher ups making the decisions, I just went where I could work. And that's why after 27 years of doing that, I learned what I liked. I learned what I didn't like. And I said, I'm just doing this myself. I'm going to create my own. And it was a big risk because I had to trust that I was good enough for people to invest in me as a coach to solve their problem. But then after I started doing it, I realized that this problem is not just happening even in my neighborhood or my state or even my country. It's happening all over the world. The speech therapy system, a therapist showing up at a house to get a kid talking, is breaking down all over the world, Sheila.
Mm. I believe that. Yeah, I believe that. Yes, especially for children
Well,
because of
there's
the
so many
distraction and then the fact that they have to have support.
there's just too many kids who are late talking, and especially now after
Yes.
the pandemic, right? So the thing is, what gets kids communicating, how kids early speech learns, how they learn is through experiences. First with their parents, and then they're out in the world, at preschool or in the park or in the streets or wherever you grew up running around. And you learn from other people, but your parents are the ones that show you how to learn, how to listen, how to follow directions, how to follow the rules. Or if you don't have that kind of guidance, you learn from whoever will teach you whatever those rules are, right? Because kids are wanting to guidance. They need it. They're little animals and they're
Yeah.
curious and they want to know about stuff. And so if you're the parent who's going to take responsibility to guide that child, you can teach them anything, right? That's what I figured out. It certainly works for speech. And as a result of the parents that are working with me that just decide, right? It's just the difference of deciding to do it yourself and learning how to do it versus, we talked about this before, just relying on some remedy, a pill or a therapy or anybody else besides you, because we're talking about speech here. And that's what parents have been teaching their kids since parents and kids were
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah. Yeah. And you work primarily with children.
I don't work with children at all. I work with the parents and caregivers of those kids. That's the other thing that's so different now than what I used to do. So when I was in the system, Sheila, in order to get paid, you have to have direct contact. You know what I'm talking
Right,
about?
I do.
You got to work one-on-one with the child, your time. Basically, they're paying you for your time, right?
Mhm.
That one-on-one hour. I pay you for so many hours. Your IEP, your individual education plan, is so many hours that your kid is supposed to sit in front of a therapist, is basically what you get. And I figured out that my time with the child is not nearly as valuable if I've only got this much time with a family. It makes a lot more sense for that parent who is willing to take the responsibility, then learns how to take those things and use them themselves, right? Because you're the one that's with your child 24/7. It makes a lot more sense for you to learn how to teach your child yourself. Think about this. Nobody really sends their kid to therapy to teach them to walk, right? I mean, there was no such thing as a child who's 2 until fairly recently. Now, they're sending kids to therapy before they're even 2 years old, physical therapy to get kids walking, right?
Mhm.
Which is a trial and error process that all kids go through.
Right. Right.
Talking is the same. Talking is the same. And the thing about talking, just like walking, is until a kid learns how to walk, it looks pretty crazy. They crawl, they climb on stuff,
Mhm.
they cruise around, they hold on to everything. They need support
Right.
until they can walk on their own. And the same is true for talking. Through the process of their speech evolution, they need their moms and dads and caregivers to support them, to facilitate their own process of how they're going to communicate. And that's what I figured out, Sheila, is it's
Mhm.
not just about being the expert in making kids talk and showing up at somebody's house and saying, this is how you got to do it. This is what you got to do. Be like me. Because therapists, I mean, I don't know where therapists got that idea that we're responsible for getting kids to do it. It comes from that one-on-one
Mhm.
correspondence, maybe from the system that says it is you that has to be there, right? You can work. I
Mhm.
was working with kids that I never saw their parents because of the system. They're like, oh yeah, just go to the
Yep.
daycare center, or just go to this place. It's you that's important. And When I realized that it wasn't me, it was the mom, that's when literally the families that I was working with. So it wasn't just the kids. I mean, the kids knew me because they would be like, oh, it's Marci on the camera talking to my mom again, and they knew me as auntie. They call me, because I'm just their mom's friend, support group, cheerleader, coach, and when their mom talks to me, they feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you unpacked a lot of stuff in that answer to that question. You really did, because and yeah, audience, as you know, I am a physical therapist, so we're both allied health. Um, it is very frustrating, audience, when the patient or client doesn't take responsibility and wants us to fix them, because we can't.
No.
We actually can't. That's very frustrating, and why a lot of us actually wind up leaving the profession. But we're not going to talk about that. We can, but that would be a whole nother conversation. But I do really like the fact that you have flipped it to really work with the parents, because number one, I'm sure your results probably are so much better.
Yeah, like 5 times better
Yeah, yeah, because
and faster.
and faster, correct, and faster. But and you talked about children not speaking. When should the parents, though, be worried or concerned if their child is not speaking by X age, or even maybe even making sounds? Because I know sounds
Yeah.
come before words, et cetera,
So
et cetera.
so instead of using timelines, I really like to have parents help their kids um always continually evolve, right? So as long as you continue to see progress, then you're on track. Because if we start laying expectations of by this age a kid's doing this, what happens to a parent is if your child's not doing that, it triggers an underlying fear, anxiety, worry. Like you said, when should parents be worried? The answer to that question is never, never, because worry takes you out of action, puts you in the wrong action. It puts you
Mhm.
in desperation mode. I'm worried something's wrong. And the way I like to look at progress is progress moving forward, or is something blocking progress? Because we're talking about natural evolution of speech here. It's not like you're developing a skill that wouldn't normally develop and isn't already developing in your child. Because I teach parents to get their kids from how they communicate at birth, which they all do. They start crying. They cry different for one thing, different for another thing. Already from even before they were born, these babies are talking to you. They let you know what they want you to eat. They let you know when you need to sleep. They let you, like, even while they're cooking in your belly, they're already communicating with you. And so a smart parent is going to always tune in. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Right? And that's how they're going to have a happy baby, because they're going to meet the baby's need. They're going to go, they're going to check it out, they're going to meet the baby's need. Well, what ends up happening is then it's a balance. Then the baby says, oh, all I got to do is squeak, and the mama shows up and she starts to meet my need, and all that happens. And it works okay until the child gets to be a toddler, when it's not enough. And that's how evolution works, right? When what we've got going on is not enough for where we want to be in our future. And so we need to learn more. We leave these things behind and we look for more. We look for better. We
Mhm.
always want to be finding better. And these kids want a better way to communicate. Now, speech is the natural way because you can replace tugging on your apron string to, give me that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
and then they know, and it naturally evolves. Now, things can block it. And we were talking about that earlier. There are 3 areas that can block the process. Obviously, a physical impairment. If the child can't see, they can't hear, they got a, real autoimmune. I mean, a lot, they're not well,
Right, right,
they
right.
can't develop. So
Mhm.
there's that. Then, though, see, and this is where parents tend to stop, is they're like, well, my child's well, how come they're not talking? They haven't looked at the other 2 things that block the process. And the other 2 things are, first of all, the environment. So
Mhm.
language develops through experience. You got to experience people talking to you, not 2D devices talking at you. You
Right.
have to experience people talking with you, a lot of different people, because you learn from this one and you learn from that one and you learn different. Right? How your mom talks is different than how your dad talks. How your brother talks
Mhm.
is different than how your sister talks. And you learn a little something from each one, even if you learn that's not what I want to do. Because you see your brother yelling and screaming and then getting smacked, and you go, I'm not going to do that. Right? Or you see your sister being nice and sweet and saying please, and then all of a sudden the baby starts saying peace, 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 right?
Mhm.
Because they see the sister doing it and it works, or the brother or sister, it doesn't matter who they watched.
Right.
That's how kids are learning communication. Just like they learned that one cry got bottle and the other cry got a diaper change, and the other one got mommy and the other one got daddy.
Mhm.
You know, they
Mhm.
learn which words get what they want, which words get them what they don't want. you know,
Right. Right.
that's how language evolves. And so that's what my whole platform is about equipping parents to be in the role of what are you doing? And so if the environment is lacking this opportunity for kids to learn, parents on my platform can learn how to create more opportunities to connect with their kids and teach them how to talk. And then the third thing that happens is the mindset of the language facilitator, it decreases. And so we talked about this idea, the mindset of, I can't do this. I need somebody with letters behind their name or more experience or some kind of expert to do this for me because I'm not capable. And that's a belief that's incorrect. It's incorrect. That's why I produce content over and over to give parents strategies. Just go try it and prove it to yourself. Because that's the only way you decide you're good at something.
Mhm.
Decide when somebody says you're good at that. It's nice to hear, of course, but you only decide you're good at something when you try it and you see the result.
Correct.
That's
Mhm.
it. And so that's what I do. I equip and empower parents to give up the worry about what is my kid doing or what are they not doing yet? What behaviors do I see? What are they not doing? So again, that whole when should you worry? Never. The only thing you should worry is if you don't know what's going on. And then what you do is you start to find out what's going on. You look at the physical, you look at the environmental, and you look at that mindset and you find the blockages. And when you wipe out those blockages, guess what happens? Progress begins again naturally.
Mhm.
You don't have to make anything happen. You just have to stop it from being stuck.
Okay, so then I'm going to rephrase the question. So say for example, my son is speaking a few words at age 3, not and the same as his friends
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, Naturally, okay, it is worrisome. So I'm going to put that to the side. Because it is worrisome.
Well,
But
yeah.
so should I have been looking at that at that pattern at age 2 and maybe look to find someone like you, or at I don't know, I don't know, because I can't remember. I don't have any
Well,
young kids anymore.
what's gonna happen, Sheila, it's gonna be different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Something in your life is going to trigger that worry. Like I said, you're not going to have to tell people when they should worry. Worry comes when worry comes.
Mm-hmm.
And when it
Mm-hmm.
comes is like you said, when you've got a 3-year-old and you show up at the barbecue and all the other kids are talking better than your kid. Or you're at the grocery store and some lady gives you the stink eye because your kid is having a meltdown because he doesn't know how to tell you that he wants you to buy him the candy bar, right? That's when people naturally worry, when they are triggered by outside influences that something is wrong with their kid or themselves as a parent. What are you doing or not doing with it, right? That's what causes people to worry. That's why people watch my channel, because they get triggered by something outside of themselves, that there's something wrong. Somebody tells them. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not themselves, because the moms, I've got moms of kids that were happily, non-verbally, telepathically communicating with their kids until 3, 4 years old. And they
Yep.
never had meltdowns. Their household was happy the whole time. The parents were just guessing, just like they did when the kids were crying. They were just really good at guessing. And so this nonverbal communication was enough in the house. And then what happens is they take them out in the world. That's why these parents need to understand that that's not enough for a late talker. It's a good in your house, in your bubble. But then when you want to go take them to the school or take them to the karate class or take them to the story time at the library, they've got to have spoken language to equip them to share this brilliance they've been sharing all in their own head and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
developing and cultivating and becoming geniuses in there about what they're doing all by themselves, all by
Mm-hmm.
themselves, and share that with the world. They need spoken language,
Yeah.
because without it, they've got behaviors and people judge them before they look at these kids to see their brilliance.
Mm-hmm.
They don't look past the behaviors. They think the
Right.
behaviors make them look unintelligent.
Right. That is now that is really such a good point. I'm glad I asked it in a different way. Um, and I don't know if this is the case with you, but for me, everybody asks me every question about everything only because I'm in the health field. So
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So you get a question about, I guess my son, he's not speaking. What should I do?
I get bathroom questions all the time, Dr. Sheila.
Right. I'm like, there are professionals, who specialize in this kind of thing. But I do, um, really like, and I do say sometimes, I do ask them sometimes, do they even talk to their children? I do ask them that, because when you have, especially your first child, and both the parents are working, and whatever, life gets the best of you. There is no, nothing negative
You
about that.
don't realize how little you're talking. And then you know what, that mindset, what that does, remember how mindset blocks you, is when you
Hmm.
don't feel like what you're saying is getting in there because the kid's not listening, because you haven't facilitated the listening first,
Yeah.
the connection and the listening first. And you're just talking, talking, talking because you're doing what the speech therapist said or what you read on YouTube or what you saw in a book or blah, blah, blah. And you're just projecting what you want the child to be or what you want them to say or what you want them to do, hoping that it's going to happen, that they're going to do it without connecting first. Then you're going to be frustrated and you're going to say, I already did that. Because remember, you'll have people who do that, join your thing. I already did that. I already did that. I already did that. Well, did you do it while you were connected? Was he actually listening when you were talking? How do you know that? That's what people join my platform to find out. How
Hmm.
do I do this? If the speech therapy way, isn't it? Prompting my kid to say cookie every time they want a cookie is not what you want, which is not what you want, by the way, people. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. It's giving the kids language when you give them the cookie, right? So if you're worried, because I got to give people solutions, because I know people are. Like you said, you get worried because you get triggered and you think, oh no. And then because the system now gets paid more with kids that are labeled with autism spectrum disorder, they're going to throw that at you. And not only mild case, in order to get the money, it's got to be a severe case. They got to meet these criteria. So now the person who wants to be paid by the system is required by the system to tell you that there is something broken in your child. So like I said, the system is triggering the parents. The parents are worried. The system can't provide them what they need, which is to teach them to connect with their kids and get the results they want. And that's why they turn to waves of communication. That's why I made it, because I knew it was happening, because I was in the system sitting on the other side, and I know the parents can do it now. And so if you're worried about this, or maybe you have a grandchild, right, who is worried, you're worried about, it's about, like you said, are you connecting? Are you talking with this child? Are their parents talking with them? It only takes, Sheila, 2 to 3 hours every day. And remarkably, 99% of families don't get 2 to 3 hours of conversation one-on-one with their child without a device, with a toy, with a book, taking a walk, in the car, right? You can find that time to connect. If you're the grandma, or you're the caregiver, the nanny, the babysitter, anybody like that, and there's a late talker in your life, you can be the catalyst to help that late talker.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that, because I think that gives these parents, I don't want to use the word worry. It gives them a little bit more hope, and eases their mind.
It gives them
So
power,
that,
Sheila. It gives them power. You can
mhm,
change this situation that you're worried about. We know you're worried. You got
yeah,
triggered. You're worried. We
yeah,
know you're worried. The only thing that helps you get out of worry is informed action. Learn what you got to do, learn what's going to work, and try it for yourself. Because also, we know what works for one mommy is not
yeah,
necessarily going to work for another mommy. And
mhm,
so, just seeing what she did, or what they did, or what someone else did, it all comes down to you just trying. And that's why my resource channel is full of stuff to do. You can
mhm.
you can learn how to do this. It's not hard either. It's easy. In fact, my book is called If It Isn't Fun, It Isn't Fun. So we always keep it fun, easy, happy, and safe.
Oh, see, and I don't even know if I had author in the bio. I might have. I was just so excited. I don't know what
Yeah,
I was
I
reading,
got
but
two. This is my work.
oh, look,
Right
copy
here.
the book. Copy the book. Oh, that's
It's
nice.
it's called
Very
If
nice.
It Isn't Fun, It Isn't Fun. And I also have a workbook.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
literally, a parent, a grandparent, anybody can go on Amazon and buy these. Just go to wavesofcommunication.com. You'll
Which I
find
have.
all the resources. You can get all these. And it takes you through 11 weeks, you guys, to real significant evolution in the late talker spoken language. And like you said, people want to know those levels. They want to know, where is my child in the process? They're in
Mm-hmm.
the book. They're in the workbook. I give you levels because not only though are you analyzing these levels of how many words is my kid saying, and are they up to par, and all of that stuff, because I know people want to know that. But
Mm-hmm.
what I tell them, the other things that you're going to level and gauge for yourself in my workbook, is those two areas of blockage. Mindset, like, where is your mindset? Are you above the level where you're going to make work, or are you still stuck in worry and all of that stuff? Those levels are in the workbook, and every day you self-analyze that mindset. And then environment 2, the motivation of the late talker to get them going, and how is your connection with them? How much are you connecting to get with them? And also how to do it. Let's say your kid is addicted to tech, and it happens a lot.
Oh gosh,
There's
yeah.
nothing physically wrong with them at all, except for the fact that they can't be off the screen for, more than 30 seconds. They can't eat.
Yeah.
They can't sleep without it. They can't go potty without it. They can't do anything without it. They can't talk without it. I work with parents because that is a blockage. right? You can't get 2 to 3 hours of engagement if the child's focus is on a screen. But you can change these things. These are just habits. It's just habits. So
Yeah.
it starts with responsibility, right, Sheila? You got
Yes.
to be the one. That's why I work with parents and caregivers, because you're the one that can make the change. The late talker's the one that's stuck in their evolutionary comfort zone. Like, yeah, the world works for me. They turn into little valets and princes and princesses where everyone is guessing what they want around there just to keep them from having a meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
work people around them. I mean, they learn to manipulate people because manipulation with behavior is their language. It's the only language they've got until you use all that stuff and teach them the
Mm-hmm.
language they need.
Yeah. Yeah. And you work, you have a lot of resources actually for parents, and parents, I mean, that is the way to go. If
Yeah.
for success, that is definitely the way to go. But do you also work with families
I
individually?
do. That's my guidance. So what I do is I equip parents to be doing it without me. That's always my goal, is
Yeah.
to have everyone who follows me be so good at this that you could actually teach someone else, because a lot of these parents are teaching their nannies or their babysitters or the grandmas in their life, right? These
Mm-hmm.
parents are getting other people involved. So that's how good I want you to be at this, which means it starts with a lot of free content. There are 450 videos on my YouTube channel, and every single video has strategies for parents and caregivers to use for language facilitation. That's where you start. Also on Facebook, I'm there talking about it too. And then I wrote these books because
Mm-hmm.
the reality is I know that people don't have the money, Sheila. Not everybody
Yeah.
has the money to invest in having a person hold their hand through the process. So
Mm-hmm.
between the workbook and the videos, there are people in more than 25 countries around the world already getting their kids talking, and they don't work with me at all. And then there are the families of kids that do have physiological things. These are the ones that are long term, or the kids that have autism spectrum disorders and they've been in unhelpful therapies for a lot of years and a lot of old habits are in place,
Mm-hmm.
and they just need somebody, an outside person, to find those blockages, because that's where I always do. My angle is always the same. Natural development will happen no matter what's going on to the best of the child's ability. So if they've got a physical cerebral palsy or something like that, it's not impossible for brains to develop. We know neuroplasticity exists,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, but we also know that it's a long-term process
Sure
for
is.
that kind of change to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I have different levels of coaching. So you can pay for an hour with me to supplement what you're doing, or you can pay for a short stint where we do an intensive training and I teach you that.
Mm-hmm.
Or I have a lifetime coaching program where people pay
Oh,
me
wow.
to have me on retainer, and they can send me videos and connect with me as long as they need until their kid's a chatterbox. And I've got families that are working with me 4 or 5 years. I hear from them every 6 months when they tell me what's going on as they evolve their kids from not talking at all to now, being the leaders of their classroom, making friends and peers and all that stuff. And these parents were worried when they were two.
Mm-hmm.
They were told by people that their kids
Mm-hmm.
spoken, that they never would develop the spoken language that they're looking at. And most of them were in some kind of therapy, of course, because
Right.
they got diagnoses and they got those things, but they were not feeling the therapist connecting with their child. And when they learned how to connect with their child through me, and then showed new therapists, new behavior analysts, new physical therapists, new occupational therapists, new speech therapists who are willing to learn from these parents. Now they're creating giant teams, and the kids are successful in their schools, and they're going to dance classes, and they're really, really improving, and they're evolving as humans, doing what they want to do, because these parents are not raising babies. They're raising adults, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
instilling that responsibility into the child to do their own development. That's what we're really here. I equip and empower parents to equip and empower their kids. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
makes anybody do anything. You show up willing to learn and then go take what you learn and trial and error and keep
Mm-hmm.
feedback and let me know how you do. And that's when progress happens naturally.
Yeah. And that's actually the best. Yeah, that system. It's unfortunate that that is not the status quo.
The standard.
Mm-hmm. The standard, yeah, because the parents are the best influence on the children and spend the most time, well, outside of school, but they spend the
Yeah.
most time with their
And
children.
not every parent is good at talking to their kids a lot. So I teach them how to find other people. If your partner is the talker, or
Mm-hmm.
if your babysitter or the siblings, like maybe the brothers and sisters are talkers,
Mm-hmm.
and you equip them to help you. Big sisters are very good at helping their
Yeah.
moms with this,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So, and that's again, because I was a single mom and I worked and raised kids and grew a business and did all of that stuff on my own. And what I learned was that when I had resources that were working for me, and I was using them, and like a coach or a program or an organization strategy or a workbook, that kind of thing. If I had a program I was following and I could continually analyze, okay, this is working. Okay, this is working. Okay, this is working. And then all of a sudden, I think we've hit a ceiling here. I'm not sure if this is working anymore. I'm not even sure if this is good for me anymore. I'm not even sure I want to do this
Yeah.
anymore. It
Mm-hmm.
did help me before, but now I don't anymore. It's time to get rid of that and keep evolving. And that's what a true evolution, understanding of that is going to help you, because you'll realize that you'll go all in 150% on something and then it won't work anymore. And then there's a
Mm-hmm.
blockage and you got to revisit it and restart and keep evolving. It's not just the way you learned it when I was a speech therapist 100 years ago is how I do it now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I do. It's we're going to take a quick commercial break, but I do want to say this, that it is uh, not so much amazing to me, but I can understand how there's not a lot of talking going on in homes. I really can, because everybody, because you see it as your children get older.
Yeah.
When they're teenagers, well, my goodness, if you don't eat dinner together, you might get a
Right.
couple of
You
whatever.
hardly know what's going on.
Yeah, yes, I can certainly understand how that works in families. But we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and finish this conversation, because this really is fascinating. I'm hoping that you um, are learning a lot, but also if you have any concern about this, that, well, number one, you can check out Marci and her program, or we're going to talk about her YouTube channel too, because she has free resources. So we'll talk about that too when we come back. So we will be back in just a second.
Do you suffer from bladder leaks? If you have ever leaked a little when you call for exercise, help is available. One in 3 women experience bladder leaks in her lifetime. For a free consultation, visit our website, thepelviccoach.com.
And as you might know, that is me. So if you are a woman suffering from bladder leaks, please be sure to reach out at thepelviccoach.com. I also have started or done a free webinar. So if you are interested in even learning a lot or learning whatever you want to pick up from that, you can go to thepelviccoach.com and then just /free, because it's a free presentation. And you'll be able to get some information that might help you to be able to reduce and eliminate your bladder leaks. That is actually my mission, besides making sure all of you live your best life with the best health. So we are going to get back to talking to Marci, who has given us just a wealth of information on how we, because it's really the parents and adults, can help our children to be able to communicate and be their best selves. So I wanted to ask you, Marci, how do you have any problems getting the parents to shift the thought process? Because the thought process for therapy and for help for not only speech, it's PT, OT, it's really anything, that to shift the onus off of the actual person. This goes for children, off of the children and onto what can I do as a parent to make sure that my child excels or does not have this issue any
Mm.
longer.
Yeah, it's the first step, right?
Yeah.
So, in order to get the results that the parents who are following my platform are achieving. We talked about 5 times faster. You
Yeah.
know, if you really want to do that, then the first step is to understand the root of what you consider as a problem right now. Because what you're doing is you're seeking outside of you, or you have been in the habit of, let's say you're willing to try and change. You've been in the habit of looking for other people, Googling, can this person help me, with some end in mind. I want my child to say mommy. I want my child to have conversation. I want my child to have whatever your thing. I want him to be valedictorian, standing on the stage, talking to the whole audience of the high school. And I encourage parents to keep that in mind, always first, right? And then realize that you are capable and trust yourself that you will figure out whatever it takes to help your child get to that point, if in fact they want to be there. Because the first thing to realize is, does my child want to be standing on the stage talking to a whole crowd of people? Or does my child want to be playing in a recording studio, playing guitar, or doing math, or creating art, or whatever? They don't want to be with a lot of people. They just want naturally to be, because a lot of late talkers resist talking because it's not natural for them to be chatty, right?
Right. Yeah.
When a parent realizes who their child is and what their job is as a parent is just to facilitate, keep them safe, give them opportunities, and help them evolve whatever they want and whatever they need. Now, you know what they need. They need to be clean, they need to be safe, they need to be fed. That's about it, right? Outside of that, what you think they need comes from you, comes from what your parents said, comes from what a therapist said, comes from what the school said. It's not coming from the child, right? So the secret here to getting this massive result is, don't worry what anybody else says about what level you are, what level your child is. Connect with that child and find their end game. Where do they want to be in 20 years? And you might not know if they're a toddler, but you know what they're interested in now is, I want to be watching Thomas the Tank, or I want to be out swinging in the park, or I want to be riding my bike, or I want to be swimming in the pool 24/7, right? And maybe 2 weeks it's going to change even. And then 2 weeks later, change again.
Yep.
They could be, I never want to eat anything but peanut butter for 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks later, you give them a peanut butter sandwich and they go, oh, I don't want peanut butter anymore. I hate peanut butter. Right? How you're going to stay connected with that change that is inevitable, that happens for everyone, is by staying on the path, walking side by side, not pulling your kids somewhere or pushing them somewhere away from you. You hold their hand and help them. And then when they get to the point where they're like, look at me, I can do it by myself, they'll tell you when they don't need you.
Very good advice. Very good advice. So tell us a little bit about, because you've mentioned a couple of times, and I'll put up that link on the screen, your YouTube channel and your information, because it seems like that is just an excellent resource
Yeah, that's
Um,
usually where people start, there or on the website. I also made a free webinar. There's a 90-minute class on my website, but if people want a shorter,
mhm.
a shorter exposure, just go there and start looking through the videos. You're going to find a title that resonates with, because remember, you're going to find it because you're worried about your child either doing something or not doing something.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you're going to go on there and find a video that talks about that. And what you're going to enjoy about my videos is, first, you're going to find out why it's happening, why either the thing is developing in the way it's going or it's not developing, it's stuck. You're going to find out. And then you're going to get some strategies. I'm going to tell you some things to try on that same video, because every one of my videos is formatted like that. First, you're going to find out why you're stuck. Then you're going to learn what to do, because it doesn't make sense to say, oh, this is why you're stuck. Have a nice day.
Right.
That would be mean. That would be mean. Oh, now you got to pay me to get the result. Like, that
Yes.
sense, right? That doesn't make sense. It makes a lot more sense for me to prove to people how powerful they are by equipping and empowering them, reminding them how you got here. Because, just like you're responsible for getting yourself out, you're also responsible for where you are now, right? Because you said, Sheila, it happens a lot that people don't talk with their kids, and it happens without you even realizing, subconsciously. And now that you're aware, then hey, all I got to do is talk more, connect
Mm-hmm.
with my
Mm-hmm.
child, teach them about what they want to learn instead of what somebody else said, and my kid's going to talk. And I'm telling you, the answer is yes.
Yeah. Do you think that with the advent of more, because I see so many little children with the little iPads, the kid iPads, I guess they are,
Yeah.
and even if they're out to dinner, the family's sitting at the table, but the child is sitting in front of this, or with even the parent's phone, watching a movie or whatever. I wonder if that's going to lead to increasing, throughout the years, these younger
What it's
children
leading
having
to
issues.
is increasing children being diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder.
Oh, oh.
I was actually on a news show last year during COVID talking about this, because the behaviors, the spoken language isn't developing, connection isn't developing with humans. Kids
Mm-hmm.
are developing unrealistic expectations and connections with characters in videos that are doing things that they can't do, or that they're trying to do in their real life. TikTok, I mean, think about that. Doesn't matter what they're watching it more than people. And so they're learning from what they're watching. And so without exposure to what people want to see, typical behavior, typical interaction, typical communication, they're looking like, kids trying to act on YouTube. And then when you go to give a child a standardized evaluation test based on experiences of kids having those tests were written from norms created from children who were playing outside, not watching videos.
Right. Yeah.
And your child is not the same as those childs. So now your child looks different, aka abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
Their
Mm-hmm.
development is abnormal. And the one diagnosis that's going to get you the therapy is autism spectrum disorder these
It
days. It's
sure
another
is.
reason I left the thing. So all you got to do is get that diagnosis, and now you can get somebody. Again, what do you get? You get what's
Yep.
broken. You get what's broken. So it doesn't make sense to go that route, but that route will be offered, Sheila, and it's going to be offered more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it comes back to
Mm-hmm.
the whole reason you're worried and finding that out. What's the cause of your worry? Is it because, oh, I'm worried because my kid's not talking. All I got to do is connect and talk more. At least I can try that. It's free. It's
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
have to pay anybody. Just go try it. So watch the
Mhm.
videos on YouTube. If you like it, get the workbook. then
Mhm,
that's your
mhm,
strategy, that's your plan,
mhm,
that keeps you accountable, right? Because we
mhm,
know as coaches that you can talk and talk and talk all you want, but unless somebody has some self accountability or somebody telling them, are you doing it? Are you doing it? Are you doing it? Are you passing your tests? Are you doing all that? And I don't have time to do that for everybody watching me. I'm equipping them to be independent.
mhm,
They're
mhm,
doing this on their own. That's why I made the workbook. So for 11 weeks, you can judge yourself every day. And every 3 weeks, you're looking at your evolution. And every month, you're seeing, wow, look at the difference. Now
mhm.
I know what works. And then you're a fool if you stop,
Right.
right?
If it's working, yes, absolutely.
You see it for
Absolutely.
yourself that it's working. You've proven it to yourself. You've got the
Yeah.
data right in front of you and you've
Yes.
done it. Now, the only reason people do quit is because they get triggered back into worry because maybe they've been working really hard and their progress isn't as fast as what somebody else wants it to be,
Mhm.
but it is still progress. And then if parents say it's not enough, and that's the other thing that I advise parents. Not only do you trust yourself to be powerful, but trust that your work with this late talker is enough to help them develop as quickly as they will, because you can't make a kid develop faster than they will.
Yeah. Right. So, and I was looking at the time because our time just has
I
flown by.
know.
But how for a parent who is listening to this, who is like, okay, I can get the workbook and try these strategies to help my child, but is it very time consuming? Which is a horrible question
Mm,
because it's you, but because it's your
right.
child. But
It
I
is
can
what
ask
it
because
is.
it's not my child.
It is what it is. What I do in the workbook is I show you how to start. So remember, the 2 to 3 hours a day is the ideal, the necessary when you get in there. But the key thing about what I teach parents to do is to use the interactions that you already have set up in your day. So, for example, when you get your kid dressed, you're right there with them. Got them in a audience, right? When you're driving in the car, you've got them in an audience. When you're sitting at the table, you've got them in an audience because you're doing something else. You're feeding them or you're dressing them or
Right.
something else.
Right.
Right then, you always have the opportunity to connect and talk with your child. And I think that's where we start because, like
Mhm.
you said, if you're already, we know you're not talking enough. Just none of you
Right.
are.
No,
99%. We know that you're
no.
not talking enough,
Right.
or you're talking the wrong things. You're not connecting with your child before you're talking. So if you're going to change that, then you've got the opportunity. All right, during dressing time, I'm going to
Mhm.
focus on changing my presentation versus on making my kid do something, right?
Mhm.
And
Understood.
during the bath time, I'm going to
Mhm.
focus
Yeah.
on what I say instead of what I make my kid do,
Mhm. So
right?
just make it fit into everyday activities, so it's
Yep,
more
and that's
seamless.
how you'll find pretty soon after practice. So you do it for 2 or 3 weeks, and then
Mhm.
you're like, "Ah," you come up with your own ideas. "I could do this
Right.
while we play books. I could do this." Because what you do is when you try it with something you're already doing, you're just changing a little thing about yourself. Not
Mhm.
much, just a little. Maybe you're talking a little more slowly. Maybe you're just talking a little more, right? You don't
Mhm.
know. And then you're not sure and you're just trial and error. What's going to happen is when you change, it's going to cause the child to change because
Yep.
they're
Yep.
mirroring you. And then when you see that change, like all of a sudden they smile at you and they look at
Right.
you and they're
Mhm.
listening to you and they stay by you instead of running away, or they used to put their hand on your mouth and now they're smiling and looking in your eyes. You're like,
Mhm.
wait a minute,
Mhm.
I must be causing this change. I'm doing this. This lady's right. It's up to me to make this difference. And there's no stranger with letters behind their name coming in your house at all. You've done it yourself.
So true. Well, this has been just really just a great talk, a great experience. I think people will get a lot of information from this, especially those who are dealing with this type of problem or who have some concern about this. So thank you so much, Marci, for coming and giving us your knowledge and really making us think a different way about how children who have language delays or who are not talking when they get to school or whatever the concern is, can be helped. So thank you so much. And audience, thank you all so much for joining me on Living Well with Dr. Sheila. And I will see you the next time. Remember, I'm on every Thursday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific time. So you all take care, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, Marci.